Danielle!
Hello.
Danielle! Heaven high, my lovely sister.
Hello, Heaven High.
I am so excited about talking to you. And for some reason, I wanted to be in flowers.
Yeah, of course you did.
I did. I wanted to be in flowers and just out and about. But I was like, the internet is not working with me. Hi.
Hi.
How are you?
I am good. I mean, what is good, right? I am. How about you? How are you? How was the whole day with the kid thing?
My day has been amazing. It all worked out. The angels answered my prayers. My son had to audition for one of his colleges, and he sang and he danced and he acted. And the people would come out and say, "Your son is rock. He was great. He was great. He was great." I was like, "Yay!" And most importantly, he came out feeling relaxed and happy. And so that's all I can ask for. That's an answer to prayer right there.
Yeah.
So I just didn't get to have my flowers with you, but I am excited about talking to you today.
Yeah, I know. I've been looking forward to it, and it's wild how it's turned out because I was like, oh, now it's time. Like today is time, and it's how Spirit has just been arranging the show, you know what I mean? And then it was like we were just kind of in and out, and I was like, oh, this is gonna be great. When we finally get there, it's gonna be amazing.
Yes. And that was big for me to ask you to do a later date, because there was a time when I would have been trying really hard to figure it out. But I remembered, whenever my spirit tells me to do something, even if the other person doesn't know it at the time, usually it's what's best for both people. So when you responded and said, "That's great," I was like, oh!
Yes, that's something that I've learned here recently, especially, and I think a lot of us are going, with the shift in consciousness that's happening on the planet. I think a lot of us, especially like the divine feminine, is going into that place where we're really just feeling like if this doesn't feel right, then we're just not doing it. We're not, and I think like I've really gotten into that space of being able to listen to that inner guidance and know, like, if it's not good, if it doesn't feel good for me, then it can't be good for anybody.
Then it can't be good for anybody. Yes. And doesn't that, for me, it also keeps me from rushing, trying to make things.
Yes. Trying to force something that isn't supposed to be forced.
Yes. Oh, you're lovely.
You are. I've been so excited. I feel like I was talking to my friend Betty, which I was talking to her last night. I feel like I started tapping, like really being able to feel your energy, like around Wednesday or Thursday. And it was great because I needed that boost.
Good.
Yes, that's exactly what it felt like. And I was like, oh my gosh, I'm so excited. I was like, I don't know why I'm so excited, but I'm so excited right now. And I've been following you, like, and watching you on Instagram. And I was like, I can't wait. Like, I can't wait. It's going to be absolutely magical. And you seem, and I was thinking about that earlier. Like, I love your energy and what you're putting out there. And I think a lot of people, and it's genuine, and I think a lot of people will see that more like on surface level and be like, how is she? Can she possibly be like that? And I was like, no, like I have experienced that before. And I have been in a state of being where, like, no, we can literally ride that frequency as long as we want to. It's all about whether or not we want to do that. You know what I mean? Because we get to choose today. We get to choose. And that's so beautiful. And so really grateful that you're here and that you're bringing this energy, that this energy is coming through Tangie, and you're allowing it to flow out into the collective because it's what is needed, you especially as a conduit. And it's just, it's affecting people, whether they want to accept it or not on a subconscious level, it is affecting all of us. And so I'm very appreciative of you for that as well.
Thank
Yeah.
you. Thank you, my beautiful sister. Okay,
Mm-hmm.
I have to breathe, and maybe I'll turn this off because I feel cozy with you here.
Okay.
Now, please, 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 I have been waiting, I feel like for months, although I know it hasn't been that long, to hear about your near death experience.
Oh, wow. Okay. Um, I would love to tell you about that. And hang on. So, there was a time in my life that this was not something that I really wanted to talk about because I didn't feel free enough to talk about it. And any time that I would talk about it, I would be told like, no, that's not okay, or that's not right. And that was mostly by society or just the people closest to me. And so it was shut down a lot. But I'll just start from the beginning. So I was born in Frankfurt, Germany. I'm a military brat. My mom was in the army, but being born in Germany, I've got the imprints of that geographical location on
Yes.
my soul. And so we moved to the States, and there was this time, like one of the earliest memories that I have is just knowing that there was something greater than me. Like there is definitely something bigger than me, and not really knowing exactly what that is, but being okay with not having to define what it is or explain what it is, but knowing that having the awareness that there was something there, like I was safe and protected, and that was
Yes.
huge for me. Yeah. And then I remember just being in that all the time and not just having like this childlike innocence, but just like feeling like the purity of it. And then there was, which I mean was kind of planned out before I dropped in. There was a traumatic event that happened, and as a 7-year-old, I was raped and molested over a period of 6 months. And I was told like I wasn't allowed, to feel. I wasn't supposed to feel how I felt. I wasn't allowed to talk about it with anybody because if I told anybody, I would be the one who got in trouble. And I just remember like being so in tune with this source I just remember being so in tune with this source that getting into this other place, I started to feel all these different things from like these lower vibrations, like started to feel all of these things integrate into my energy. And with the frequency that I had brought in, it was trying to push and push and push it out. And I just remember being in tune with not just source, but the angels and like trying all these different rituals as a child where
Wow.
you wouldn't even know where this knowledge was coming from. I just remember
You by this was you by yourself, not you with a parent or anything, right?
So
Wow.
yeah. So this was me by myself, and I want to tell you, I want to tell you the situation. It was just, I just, and it's still a little dramatic. I don't know if I just want to put it out there for everybody, and maybe like me and you on a more of an intimate and individual level, but like the ritual that came in, I was doing it, and I just remember being surrounded by all of these angelic beings
Yes.
at a very young age. And then with that being said, I started to experience the duality of this realm and the polarity. So it was almost like I came in and had no awareness and no thought, or like I wasn't prepared to know, and of the duality, and I just didn't have an awareness of it at all.
Mm-hmm.
So when I started to experience the duality, I started to see the other energies. So at first, I'm just like, there's a power greater than me. Life is absolutely beautiful. Here's the angelic light beings, and it's wonderful. But then after this traumatic event took place, and my human, Danielle, was kind of in, like trauma, I started
Yeah.
to experience like these black forms,
Uh,
and things that were trying to just attach to my energy, because in the third dimensional reality, that's what we experience, right? We
mm-hmm.
experience good and bad and dark and light and all of these things. Once we start to vibrate at a higher frequency, we get like into that fifth dimensional reality or whatever it may be that our consciousness like is ascending into right now. The consciousness of the planet is actually ascending into, you know, those things kind of dissipate and dissolve. But I was kind of lowered back into this, and I really needed these experiences to be able to get to where I am today, to be where I am today, you know. And so I started to see these energies and these things with like red eyes and all of this. And I would look in the mirror and I would tell my mom at one time, I was like, that's not me. This isn't me. You know, and at this point I had told her that my name was Crystal. And she was like, she thought like after a while, they started saying that Crystal was my imaginary friend. And I just kind of went along with it. And then when everything had come down to it and everything was found out about what was going on, you know, behind the scenes, and, you know, the man went to jail, I ended up going to see a doctor and talking to them and telling them about the energies that I was seeing. Mm-hmm. And this is where they, oh, no, this isn't, you know, this isn't right. This isn't what this is, you know, these are delusions, or these are, you know, when I would say, and I would tell them like, this isn't me. This isn't my hand, but I'm like talking to you. They would like put me on medicine for dissociative disorder, and just kind of taking all of my spiritual gifts and putting them into the mental health. And I'm not the type of person to say, I do believe that there is mental health. I do believe that. And I do believe that God has given us the tools to be able to help with that through doctors and whatever. And so that's not what I'm saying at all. But for me, in my case, that wasn't what it was. But I got into the matrix. So if we want to call it that, the matrix thinking, where I started to believe what they were telling me. Mm-hmm. And I started to believe that what I was, who I was, what I was experiencing was wrong and wasn't okay. So, yeah. And so I kind of felt I think that when we fall into the matrix way of thinking, we're falling into the egoic thinking. And so for the longest time, that's what I did fall into. When I would see something, I would dismiss it. I wouldn't, you know, I was not playing in that reality anymore, because I had fallen into, like, and they talk about like the fall of consciousness or the fall of man, you know, kind of that's what it's symbolizing and portraying here. Yes. And there were so many times where I would, and I say I, like, there's so much identity in the I, and I'm talking from Danielle and where Crystal was, you know, and so it's sometimes it's hard to explain other than like we. Although we're all one, and it is all one, when explaining it, it's better to just kind of say we. So we got to the point where it was materialistic things were important. I needed to be a certain way. I needed to put on these masks. I needed to, you know, and it was exhausting. I was exhausted. Mm-hmm. So then, it was leading out of that. There was a lot of like doctors, a lot of medicine. I started drinking at one point, and doing like, you know, recreational drugs. What is a recreational drug? I don't know. I mean, a drug is a drug for me personally, maybe everybody. For me, it is, you know, I started smoking weed and doing all those things, and just lost sight of not just who I truly am that I am, but of mission itself. And the soul was just done. The soul was done. And so at 15, I was a passenger in, I was riding with my friend, and I was the passenger, and we had a wreck. There was a car wreck. We flipped tail over head 3 or 4 times and landed back on top. And Danielle, the human, died. And when Danielle, the human, died, Crystal, the soul, and that's just the name that I have for this human vocabulary, left. But in that moment, when that happened, another soul walked in, which is who I am that I am, and that I with.
Pause. Okay, so Danielle died. Crystal left. Mm-hmm. Interesting. And okay, so I got questions. I want to. Okay, and then another soul. Then you came in.
Walked in. So yeah, walked in.
And it's interesting because, well, I want to hear the rest of it, but you didn't say like I know after people have near-death experiences, right? The soul leaves and has this experience, and then it comes back with its original divine blueprint. But you're not even saying I came back with my, yours sounds like we talked about Betty. You remember Betty? She said, I'm not going back in that body, and they gave her another choice. It was like it was another soul over here that said, I'm not going back in that body. Well, I'll take hers.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. So it's something to do with the genetics and the DNA of this vessel, that she's able to house what you would call, like, and what I'm learning is now called a walk-in. And I'm doing this because it's like, I don't know the other.
Walk in. Yes. I've heard about, yes.
Yes. And it was it's interesting. And so we'll call it the crystal energy behind Danielle left, and now this energy that behind Danielle is here. But when Elle came in, there was no remembrance at all that this walk-in had happened. So it was extremely confusing, and neither one of these souls, which is just like fractals of the same source, right? Yes. But neither one of these are the same source light, but neither one of these souls have ever had a lifetime here on Earth before. So through that, they are coming through the Akashic records, which is also imprinting on them to be able, without having to just drop in and just have a traumatic, like, oh my gosh, the density and the harshness of this world, what is it? You know, so it seems pretty quick here, and I'm sure it was pretty quick there, but there was no recollection. There was no recollection of that happening. It was just like, and also, like, the thing was too, is that Danielle, like, none of the memories left. So when I came in, I still had the memories of Danielle as a child and all of the everything with it. So that's all was just exhausted and done. And then this one walks in. And then, and I remember waking up from the wreck and just being grateful. I didn't feel any pain. My face was split open. My ear was hanging off. They said I walked out and had just blood all over me, and was just saying, thank you for taking the time out of your day to be here, to the ambulance, like complete different personality than before the wreck, where I was like, you know what, screw you, I'm better than you, to all of a sudden, like, thank you so much, just being in touch with that source and that love. Yeah. Yeah.
When you looked in the mirror earlier, when you looked in the mirror, you say, this isn't me. Mm-hmm. So when you looked in the mirror after the wreck, did you see you?
So that was the biggest thing, one of the biggest things. So when I went to the hospital, and I was telling them in the hospital, I was seeing all these people and things that weren't actually there. And I ended up, like, they ended up putting me on morphine and stuff because of the pain. And then I would go home, and I felt so different and not like I had ever felt. And I would look in the mirror and could only apply that to a dissociative disorder, that I started to do drugs, like, but not just like smoking and weed, but like, I can't deal with this. I don't understand what's happened. I don't understand what's happening. And so I need to just completely not just like disassociate, but like, I need to detach from reality, because this, like, first of all, this doesn't make sense to me, let alone I am looking in the mirror, or, you know, if people would come around and talk to me, and my whole friend changed because they were like, we don't know who you are anymore. And I was like, I don't either, you know? So I ended up shutting down that part of me, which is a whole part of the journey too. So there was, I mean, it was a lot different. I do remember the feelings that I had when I was able to tell my mom, when I was like, when Crystal was the energy pushing through Danielle, and I was able to say, like, Danielle was able to articulate to her mother, like, hey, that's not me. It was a completely different feeling than when I came after the wreck, and I was like, I don't know who that is. I don't know what's going on here. Like, just alien, just for. And so that led me into, again, dropping into the matrix way of thinking, getting on not just like recreational, whatever that is, but like hard drugs. And I became affiliated with a gang, just like weird, strange things that didn't make sense. But I was like, I'm supposed to fit in here. And so this is all I know how to do. And after the wreck, when I had gotten on pain medicine, and that did make all of these feelings kind of go away, that's what I continued to try and do over.
Oh.
So it was like pacifying the inner thing that was going on. And so that was a really long time. This is like the best part, and this is what I really want to get to. And so I had the wreck in 2001, and then I just used and tried to become somebody because I didn't know who I was or what was going on, and I didn't have any answers either. And if you would have talked to me about God at this point too, I would have said, if there is a God, then why did he let all of this happen to me? Or, I would try and prove this God being wrong. Like it doesn't even exist. It's impossible. It doesn't make sense. So how can it?
Mm-hmm.
And then it was, so 2001, and fast forward to 2016, 2017. And I was still, I was still on drugs and stuff, but something was starting to happen. And I know that a lot of the people on the planet started to awaken and started to remember in 2012, more of like our ancient galactic roots, or just the shift in consciousness, or, angelic light beings, and just coming out more with it and talking more about it.
Mm-hmm.
And, so it was, my time was 2016, 2017. So 2016, I tried to get sober. And when I did, and this is, so I used drugs ever since that walk-in happened. I had been loaded the whole time. There wasn't a time that I wasn't getting loaded. And so when I tried to get sober in 2016, it was all of a sudden, I did a prayer with what I call as my sponsor, because I work 12-step programs, and I did a prayer with her and turned my will and my life over to this thing, this big, infinite, supreme being. And the next thing you know, I was in the shower and I started to see sparkles everywhere. So I started to see sparkles. And I was like, oh, no, there's something wrong with me. If you're really there, then take it away. And then it went away. And I was like, and so I went and drank an Irish car bomb over it. And I was off to the races again, because I was like, I was so ingrained and so conditioned to thinking that seeing energy or talking to light beings was wrong. And that
from a child.
Yes, there was something like mentally defected with me if I was doing that, if I was seeing that, if I was experiencing that, right? And so I ended up, and I say I again, because it's we, and L is just trying to come through and break through this egoic identity that has taken place, that has been built up to try and separate from, the sunlight of the spirit. And I was in and off of the Appalachian Trail, and I was experiencing some things. And then the solar eclipse of 2017 happened, and it was, when everything got dark during the day. And I just remember being like, something feels very significant here. Something feels extremely significant. And then with that solar eclipse the next day, I just remember all of a sudden being able to understand, like I was getting this guidance, and it wasn't just a voice, but it was this like inner guidance. It was like, you need to go over here and you need to do this. And so going out on this trail, on the Appalachian Trail, and getting in, like, for some reason, I was just like started touching these trees. And we're going from, I'm a gang affiliate at this point in time.
Oh, yes, right.
Yeah. To all of a sudden, I'm like, what are we doing here? And I'm starting to share energy with this tree, and it makes me choke up. And I start to hear, and it's hard to explain the type of communication because it's not actual words. I've gotten actual words in this human English vocabulary before, but what I was sensing and feeling was a different type of communication. And it was telling me, it was downloading me. And like, so it was like all of a sudden I understood the day before that all of my energy centers had just been unlocked, open, and activated. And I came online. And all of the memories of my ancient galactic roots and all of this just flooded in. Just full. Yes, yes. And so all of a sudden I remembered what happened in the walk-in that I had completely forgotten about. Like
wow.
before that. Yes. And it was wild. And I definitely thought that I had lost my mind. I was like, I'm blue. Like what? And I would put my hand on the tree, but when I see my hand, instead of just being like, this isn't my hand, I'm so confused. It was like, when I see my hand, I can see the three blue, like the energy, the light. There's like three, all I have are really three, and they're long and they're blue, and that was really hard to come out with and get a grip on, but it was hard to deny it because it was something that I didn't really ask for. I was just seeing,
Yes.
And then I remember falling asleep that night, which I wasn't sleeping a lot either at that point. I remember, and that was another reason I was like, no, I've really lost it. And I remember I think I'd fallen asleep. But I knew before that I had gotten all of these like visions that had just come into my field, just like, I don't know, just a deluge of things. And I remember volunteering to come in as L, and L is blue. And I remember, and it was like I was reporting for duty, super ecstatic to be here, wanting to come in. I had heard and it was like somebody had let us know, there was this huge, and it wasn't like a phone call where it was like, hey, Earth's something's going on, we could really use your help. It was like this pulse that went out, not just in all of the galaxies, but in all of the realms, in all of the dimensions. And I knew that I had not come from down, that I had come from the side. And I later learned that the side is what they call a parallel reality, because I kept going, I came from over here, not up here. So I don't know how to explain it. And somebody was like, well, it sounds like parallel. And I was like, oh my gosh, I came from a parallel. And I remember also seeing these pictures, but they weren't pictures and videos that weren't actual videos. And that's the only way I know how to explain them in this way, without just pushing my energy onto you and being like, see it for yourself, like telepathy or something. And I remember seeing all these things, and now everything's sparkling. Oh man, it's so hard at first to talk about these things, to come out and say this is what it is, until I get into it. And then I'm like, okay, so the beginning, talking about this and bringing in the story at the beginning is always seems to be a little hard for me, a little bit more difficult, until I get to this place where I'm with the other person, with you, and you're shaking your head and you're not telling me, no, don't say that, that's not true, and all these other things.
Dang.
Yeah. So it's always, and maybe, I don't know if that'll get better with time. But I do know that when I get to this point and I see that I'm not being told, stop, or that I need mental health medicine, that it just gets a lot easier. So anyways.
But you know what, Danielle, it's also, before it was Crystal and Danielle that was told, no, this is wrong. And so it was Crystal. And then when you did the walk-in, you walked out, and then they drugged you up. Yeah. And when they drugged you up, it sent you rolling. So actually, this part is the first time you're clean.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
So and that's easy to do, because Elle is clean. She's like, oh,
yeah.
No.
Yes. Yes, but that's the thing, when Elle dropped, not, and I call it drop in, but it's from the side. When Elle came through, there were still the imprints of the trauma from Danielle's childhood. There was still the imprints of the geographical location. There were still the imprints through the Akashic records. There was still all of these other things that were brought in through the generational DNA, the vessel that housed which is why we're here. This is why our high frequency bodies, light bodies, are here trying to help heal humanity so it can uplift and save this planet.
Yeah.
It's not just like save this planet from the physical things that we're doing, but to save this planet and the consciousness that humanity has been in and stuck in on this wheel of karma for so long.
Yeah.
That's what we're here for. And that's what I knew, speaking from ill, like that's what I knew I was signing up for when I was looking and agreeing to this being the life that is happening.
Yes.
So all of that just flooded in. And I started to communicate with Mother. I started to talk with Michael all of the time. And I was like, this is amazing, strong, like being, that has these like wings. And, so I'm starting to talk with him. And I'm starting to talk to these, not just like talking with them, but they're talking with me, like a communication. And then the numbers started. And
just to be specific for the fans, we're talking about Archangel Michael.
Yes, absolutely.
And Mother Mary?
Well, I love Mother Mary, Mother Earth.
Mother Earth, got you.
But I do love Mother Mary, and ever since I've been able to, when I got my certification, my Reiki Master certification, it was like something opened up with the sacral, and I was able to really start communicating with Mother Mary a lot. And she's super helpful. She's always very comforting, helping me in times where I like, and it's in my goddess times too.
Yes. Yes.
Yeah, just but communicating mostly back then with Mother Earth, who is still my mother today, still takes care of me in all of the ways. And she was keeping me alive. She was keeping me alive because I was still in drug use at this time, thinking, now I've lost it. And so all of a sudden my personality, there was this huge psychic change that happened.
Yes.
And so people that I was hanging out with were like, what's wrong with you? And I was like, we're supposed to love everybody. We're coming from a violent offender to all of a sudden, like, no, we're supposed to love one another. We need to go walk barefoot on the earth. Like, all of yeah, and it was wild. And so I got some communication, that I had a choice, and my choice was I could stay, and I could walk in the light, or it was time for me to exit the body, that the job was done. And I chose to stay.
Wait a minute.
Yeah.
So you came happy, jolly, spreading love and light, and then the pain, they recognized that you were in pain, or they said she's in pain, even though you were saying thank you, and they put the drugs in you, which sent you on a different spiral, because where you walked from, you hadn't dealt with all of her history and all of what was going on in your body, right? Mm-hmm. So you prayed, you got clean, you saw the sparkles, you said, wait a minute, stop.
Yeah.
Much.
Yeah.
And then tell me again how you got to the choice. Like, we had the experience with the tree.
So I got clean.
Yes.
I got clean, and that's when I saw the sparkles. Because I finally prayed after like an honest prayer, and it had been a very long time. And I don't know if that's why it happened, but I was like, I surrendered to something greater than me. That's when I began to see. Yeah. That's when I began to see the sparkles and the energy. And that's when I was like, turn it off and take it away. And when whatever it was had the power to take it away, I was like, whoa, there's something bigger than me. And so I went out and used again. And so while I was using is when the solar eclipse happened.
Okay.
Yeah. And that's when everything just unlocked, activated, it came online. And
but
I started to experience it that's when, I started to communicate with nature, and just a huge shift in consciousness and expansion in consciousness happened. And that's when I was given the choice. It was
How
like,
choice though? Did you,
huh?
how were you given the choice? Because like, how were you given the choice? Because I've had moments where I'm like, okay, this is a lot, but I love it here. I want to stay. Did,
Yeah.
did you?
Well, I was dying. I had experienced some organ failure before that. Like I was not drinking, I was not eating. I was literally on methamphetamine.
Okay.
That was what I was feeding myself. And that's why and I noticed that when I would go out to Mother and be with her, because it was something that for some reason I didn't feel like I could stop, on my own. And when I would go out to Mother, she would help heal me and all this. And then I would go back out and do it again. And so that's where the opportunity came in. And it's more like, I don't know if it's visions, but it's more of these, it's more of these visions, or these like pictures that are put into my mind sometimes. And that's how it was, where like you can
Okay.
exit, or you can stay and help others remember, and you can walk in the light, like you have a choice. And that's when I chose to walk in the light, and I chose to get clean, which was not easy. And I came all the way back down I'm in Chattanooga, Tennessee. So I was up in North Tennessee, off and on, like I said, the Appalachian Trail near like Johnson City, which is like 3 or 4 hours away. And I was told that and I think that it was an immediate, like there was no, I don't know, for me, it wasn't like making a decision. Like I made a vow at that point in time to like do whatever this light and like this thing, greater than me, that wanted me to do. And I was told to come back down to Chattanooga, which I didn't want to, and stand with a strong back and open heart and speak the truth. That was also really hard for me. I did come down here and I did speak the truth. And I thought for sure, I went to a facility and I thought for sure that they were going to put me into a psych ward, because I was like, no, it's okay. I was in the shower talking to Michael, like how I was just talking to you about Michael.
Yes.
In the shower talking to Michael, because that's when I'm in my purest form. And, just
Yes.
go touch a tree if you don't mind. I don't want as much,
Yes.
I don't want as much medicine. If you could, I just need to release the chi energy. And they were, so we're talking about this personality that was an ex-convict, just and a methamphetamine IV user, who all of a sudden, this complete shift and change in personality, is saying, no, I don't want your medicine. No, I don't want to do it this way. No, I don't want to be mean. In fact, I want to learn how to love, and I want to learn how to be loved, and I want to learn how to love myself, and I want to use like these natural ways. And I do believe that there's a power greater than me. And so I walked into that, and I also heard at that time too that I was to do Reiki. And I was like, what is Reiki? What is this thing, And so I looked into that too. And then I felt like it started happening. I could feel it. Like I could feel the energy already flowing through me. Yeah. Reiki master today, but that's only because I needed the pieces of paper to be able to show people that because it was already like happening.
Yes.
And so I did get that message too. And so I went down and I spoke my truth. And at first I wasn't telling people because I felt like I was crazy. But I did. I told my counselor, all the clients that I was around thought that I had lost my mind. And I was telling them, I was like, I can see like this light bouncing off of you. And it feels like the earth is rumbling. Like I can feel something. And, I would talk about how I could feel the person next to me, and it was just really awkward for me and difficult. And they ended up sending me outside of group one day because I lost it. I was just crying. I was like, I can't hide it anymore. This is who I am. This is what I'm seeing. This is what's happening. And I had really accepted at this point, I had really accepted that I was crazy. I was out of my mind. Yeah. And that I didn't want to use drugs anymore. So they needed to put me into a psych ward.
Oh my goodness.
I know. And
so hard. I got chills. That's so hard. Because you were saying, okay, I'm gonna be honest with myself and live my truth. And I know I'm crazy.
yeah.
Put me in a psych ward, but let me live honestly. Let me live
Yes.
so.
Yes. Let me live
Oh,
to my authentic self.
yeah,
Yes. I love I love your perspective on that. That just changed my perspective. Thank you.
yeah. You're
That was
welcome.
so much more empowering now that I think, thank you.
Yes.
But I just finally told them everything, because there was this thing that was telling, this invisible force that was telling me to tell everybody. So I was like, I told them, now take me away. And it was the first time that I had told them, and then I went into, it was the first time that this ever happened, and I knew I had been rocketed into a different dimension, to where people were thinking in a different dimension too. And
Mm-hmm.
ended up going and sitting outside, and outside in this little area that they had, and there were these double doors, and they were like clear double doors, and I was just waiting for them to bring the gurney in, because I told everybody everything. I'm telling people, while I'm detoxing, that I'm hearing, seeing, all these things. And so I'm ready to go. And and they called me in there, and they were like, so you don't want to hurt anybody? I was like, no, I don't. Like, for the first time in my life, I want to love everybody, and I want to learn how to be loved. And they ended up turning this piece of paper around to me, and it said how to ground your chakra when it's out of whack. And they were like, so we think this is just, yes,
Oh,
we think that this is just spirituality. And I was like,
oh,
what? Yes. Yes, my entire life. Yes. Nobody had ever said that. Nobody had ever given me the opportunity. But not just Elle or Crystal's opportunity, but the human, the Danielle, the vessel's opportunity to be, because she is also the one that is housing the energies.
yes.
Something about this DNA too that is open and receptive to being able to emit this frequency, or being able to hold what's going on. And so it was just this that it was confirmation that what I had heard, to stand with a strong back, open heart, speak the truth, was right. And so after that, I was like, well, all right.
Wow.
And so anyways, ever since then, I was like, okay, like I can do this. I can't, but we can. And then it was when I was, it was about 3 or 4 years ago that I got communication that the energy behind Danielle is actually Elle. The number is 37. I don't know exactly. I just know L and 37, and it was after my first, my level 1 and 2 degree Reiki attunements that information came to me. But yeah, it was like ever since then, and that was another thing, and I just kind of want to skip back a little bit. This was the biggest thing that helped with the choice that I made, when it was like, you can either do this or you can go walk in the light. And I was like, I remember talking to this invisible force, right? And I was like, well, I hear that feathers appear, or like angels appear when feathers are near, is what I hear. So if you could bring me a feather, then I'll do it. I'll do it. And I'll know that you're real. But what I need, because all I'm seeing these invisible things that I'm telling people about, but they're not also experiencing it. So to know that, like, you're here, can I have some physical, tangible evidence, that there's something, that you're actually talking to me right now. And the next day I went out on the trail, and there was a pile of feathers, and I dove down, and I started digging through them to find a body. To be completely honest, I was like, where's the body? Like, there's all kinds of feathers, right? But there was no body. And I took them back, and I like made a dream catcher or something. And I was like, okay, but like maybe that was a coincidence, because that's how my human is. I was like, just one more feather. And I went out on a different,
You asked for the sign. You
yeah.
asked You get a whole pile and you say, that could have been a coincidence. One more. Okay.
Yes.
Go.
Yes. Yes. And I ended up going on a different trail the next day and finding another pile of feathers. Not just one, like a pile, and it was the same type feathers and everything. They were northern flicker feathers. And I was like, okay, like I'll do whatever you want me to do.
Ah,
Yeah,
oh,
and so
that's beautiful. So how did Danielle do when she went back with Elle to her family and started speaking her truth and maybe even address some issues to clear up some things that Danielle had been dealing with? How did she handle that?
So it wasn't handled at first for a while. Before I came back down to Chattanooga, I was trying to talk to my family, but there was such a huge personality change with the psychic change that had happened that it was looked on like she's really lost it, like she's lost it now, which is another reason why I sometimes have a difficulty being able to share these things, just because it wasn't just, at some point before this point, at some point, it wasn't just the doctors, it was also the family that was like, no, this is absolutely insane. And so I've gotten to this point now where I have so much confidence that this is what I'm supposed to be doing and that it is backed by God and it is source and it is like I am completely supported by the universe and surrounded by angels because it's all of the not just physical evidence that I've gotten, but like the proof in the past that like I've just been me. And so I've been able to only in the past year be able to really reconnect and talk with my family and like and I've been talking with them and telling them for a while, hey, so by the way, remember that time when I told you I wasn't, it wasn't me, that my name was actually Crystal, like it really was Crystal, like, but this completely different form and being, and so today and that I think that and I think like that's what I was saying too with healing the generational wounds and all of that. I think by my own like healing process and coming into this state has also healed out in like a ripple effect.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
So become more open-minded just here recently with what I'm saying and who I am. And they've never been like, go away, you can't come around. I mean, when I was using, they were. But when I got clean, they weren't like that. It was just I was just always sitting on the outskirts, like, you gonna let me in, or what are we doing here? And just kind of showing up. And so there have been amends, direct face-to-face amends, and there's also like a lot of living amends. And so I think now they see that this is my most authentic self and that it is like the best version of Danielle. And so that's opening their mind and their own curiosity to what this actually is. And I think that it's actually helping them without them even realizing it.
And the consistency. Have you ever done Reiki on any of your family members?
Not on my family members. So I've done just a little. I've done it. My mom, she's in chemo right now. She's had cancer for a while. And so I've done it on her as much as she could sit still or wasn't in pain. It actually helped her a lot with her headache. It got rid of one of her headaches. And I now that we're talking about it, I've done it, but not in like 1 hour sessions.
Okay.
So what I noticed too, though, is that when I do Reiki on people, they actually start to have like this activation within themselves. It's almost like this energy. And I can see when my hand's above, I can see L goes through and all of her fingers kind of wrap into the patient. And so I know, like I said, I'm also just a vessel, so I don't really know what source is wanting to happen, and I'm just there, and I'm allowing myself to be that free-flowing, channel. But then after somebody has a Reiki session with me, they end up having this activation of remembrance and just knowing that they're not from here. And I say that from like a spiritual confidence, you know, not a this is who I am and da 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 da, but like that is like the truest, that is the most authentic truth, you know, which is wild. The more and more that I talk about it and experience it, it's just absolutely amazing and something I never knew could possibly be real, you know.
Wow. I believe all of that. And I'm going to have some Reiki with you so that I remember who I am, because I feel pretty special too. You know, I know I'm I know I'm here with a calling, but I don't know all of that. But I would be fascinated. I would love to know. I wonder what Crystal is doing now. And I wonder what Elle did before she came here. I wonder if they switched.
Mm-hmm. So Crystal is that's all is resting, and that's all, you know, I could probably ask, but if it's meant for me to know, I would know. But I know that she's resting. You know, she needed rest. Like, she did her best. She was not, like, neither one of us are from here. I'm not from here. You know, and she came in and did what she could in the time that she had, and then it was done, and she was ready to go. Elle had, we had training. We were trained and ready to be here for this time. Excited about it. Now that I'm in it, I'm like, what was I thinking? But there was a lot of training. And so Elle is more of a strong and confident, and I don't want to say soldier, but like a warrior.
Yes.
A warrior.
Warrior
Of love and light. Crystal was probably more of a delicate sense, and just more of a, not, I don't, fragile keeps coming to mind, but I don't believe that it was fragile. It was just more delicate, you know, more feminine, more soft.
Wow. It's absolutely beautiful. And so now that you know why you walked in and you've stepped fully into your calling, is Reiki the only way that you allow yourself to share this gift? What other ways?
All of the ways. So I am always on. I'm always remembering. I'm always able to, and I'm always able to insert here. You know, if there's a conversation, or if I have an interaction with a person at the grocery store or wherever it is, it's completely, I don't live in that realm of thinking that everybody else, you know, lives in.
That's me too, Danielle.
I know it is. I know. That's what I was saying at the beginning. I know it is for you.
Oh my goodness.
Yes.
It's so much that you're saying. I'm like, I'm listening. But that's me too.
Yes. And that was like, that's my biggest thing and I love that you're able to identify and relate, because that's the biggest thing was like for me to come in. Not just come in, but when I came online and remembered, like, my whole thing was to help other people remember, and not by telling anybody this is you and this is, but by like something within the connection with this frequency and this energy helps activate just through our conversation.
Yes.
Yeah. Like,
go ahead.
Go ahead.
With my podcast,
yeah,
the things that I want to talk about, I have had people say, Tangie, you know, like, you know, or that's crazy, or that's sad. None of which I think is sad or crazy. Like, it's all so real to me. And so this has been big for me to step out on faith, because like you've seen my page and some things. I try to spread I just want to spread love. But I don't really talk about everything that I feel because sometimes that puts a barrier up.
Mhm.
You know,
Yeah.
and people don't understand. So I try to figure out ways to, but I've been feeling like it's time.
Yes, it is. Yes,
It's
it
it's
is.
time.
Hmm. Yeah, there's a, I mean, you're reporting for duty, and I can't speak for you, but I can say I understand what it feels like when you finally remember that it's like the purpose of your mission, and then you get in vibrational alignment with it. And it's like, oh, I'm late. I'm late. I need to be doing this now.
Late. I'm late.
and, and yeah, and then
Well,
after that,
you know how my angels did it with me. Um, what they did was they said, "Okay, Tangie, it's time," and I'd say, "Okay," and then something would happen, and I would go off on that journey. And then when that journey would end, they'd say, "Okay, Tangie, it's time," and I'd say, "Okay," and then something would happen, and I'd go off on that journey.
Mhm.
And then they tried it again, and finally they said, "Oh," so they shut that down. Then 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 they shut, and then it was just me. And the only thing that was available was like, okay, I'll do it.
Mhm.
I'll do it.
Yeah, they need
You
you.
know?
Mhm.
So going through those times, I was like, ah, but now I actually feel blessed that what I'm supposed to do is so important that they took time to get me here.
Yes,
Yeah.
yes, exactly. Like redirection and guidance. Like it's just a constant direction, constant redirection. And that's what I'm noticing too. I've noticed that also if I'm like even start to go in the wrong, or like I'm playing over here, it gets cut off immediately now. If there's a type of frequency or vibration that tries to come into my reality, like it gets kicked out pretty fast now.
Yes.
I think that has a lot to do with I mean, we're moving into the new earth consciousness. We're moving onto the new earth, and the new earth isn't something that like is physically going to be, but it doesn't happen to us. It happens through us,
Yeah.
and we are the channels and the conduits to come in and allow it to happen, whether we remember exactly why, who, what, when, why, where. Like this is our mission. you know
Mm.
that's the thing. I'm not from here. I'm not from here, but I am here to help whoever remember, and I'm okay with that.
Yeah.
It took me a while to be okay with that. And that's what I was going to say too. It's so wild because it's just here recently that this happened. But I just got this job where, so I am so wild. So I help administer red light therapy and biosound healing to addicts and mental health patients. And then they just asked me, yeah, this is even wilder. Then they asked me the other week, and I've been doing it for like a month, to incorporate Reiki, if I could facilitate a group and incorporate Reiki into it. I was like, yeah, sure, absolutely. So I'm giving Reiki to all these other people, and it's like 10-minute sessions. But then this one person came in yesterday, and we talked, and they're having an awakening. They're having an activate, like they've been activated. Yes.
Uh,
Yes. Yes. So it's like we don't know. And that's the thing, is like I don't know what's happening. I don't really know exactly what I'm supposed to do. I just know that this moment is the only thing that exists, and I'm exactly where I'm supposed to be. I don't know what tomorrow looks like, but I'm going to go like where I'm guided, not like where Danielle wants to go.
I
Anyway.
like that. I have to write all that down. This moment is the only moment that
Yeah.
exists,
Yes.
and I'm going to go where I'm guided.
Yes.
Yes, 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 yes. I love that. I love that. Oh, well, I certainly thank you for fulfilling your mission. I
Yeah.
do. I do. Let me
Yeah.
ask this. So, to my listeners, who might or might not understand my spiritual side, or my dancing in the street, or my sexual side, or my mommy side, or my crazy, all these different sides.
Yeah.
What would you say to them? Is there anything that Spirit is leading you to say to them?
Say something to you that
Oh,
there is,
I love it. Yes, thank you.
that it's not about, that's the thing. We're not here to be understood. You
We're not.
know, we're not here to be understood. We're not here to be understood. Like, the frequency that you emit is a service, whether they understand it or not, whether they get it, whether it, if your light casts shadows, then good, because that means that's probably part of your mission, you know, to cast those shadows so they can be seen, so other people, that helps other people have the awareness to get where they need to be in their consciousness on this planet.
Yeah.
Like, using all of those things, it might, a lot of people aren't going to understand, but you're spreading it, and that's what we want to do. That's what we need help doing. Like, we are all placed in certain geographical locations with these certain frequencies and these certain energies in this grid that is happening. Where, if you notice, me, you, and Betty, for instance, we're far, like, we're far away apart, right? But we are
Yeah.
connected, right? And so that is creating this grid, and anybody in between us is getting a healing, whether they understand it or like it or not. You know?
Yes.
And that's the thing, like, and if people do get triggered to where they don't understand, that says everything about what's going on with them and nothing to do with what's going on with you, right?
Yes.
Yeah.
You're so beautiful.
You are. I'm
Uh,
so grateful that you gave me this space to be vulnerable for something that has been very difficult for me to be able to bring to the light. And I'll tell you, the first part of the story for me, is like, ooh, ooh, no. It's getting easier and easier, but this is such a safe space. And I'm so excited to see where this goes for you and
oh,
for,
thank you.
yeah,
Me too.
epic. Yeah.
Well, one more thing. Well, actually, two thoughts that came to my mind. One, it's funny. I've been in this house. I love to move, and I always visualize the four archangels on each corner of my yard protecting this house. But I felt I would tell people, they would worry about earthquakes. I said, no, because I'm here.
Yeah.
We're good because I'm here. That's what I would say. They look at me like that. But I was going to say the first half of my life, I spent a lot of time out my body, just kind of floating.
That could be hard.
Yep, just floating. But I was happy, real happy. Real. And if someone would come to me with an issue, I immediately found the good.
Yeah.
So some people I couldn't relate to, though. So some people I couldn't help, and I kept having spiritual people come to me and say, Tangie, you need to be grounded. You need to be grounded. I was like, what are they talking about? I'm grounded, grounded. And I like to walk around barefoot and go to the beach and all this stuff. And they kept saying grounded. And then during the pandemic, I was on my skates and I fell. And as I started falling, when I got about right here, time started going in slow motion.
Oh, wow.
Saw myself fall. And I saw my head, boom, hit the cement. And I saw my skull burst open and blood all over the place. And I saw my kids come out and see me. And in that split second, I tucked my head and I fell and hit my tailbone. And then and I couldn't look up for about 6 months. And it wasn't until I went to a chiropractor, I went to all these doctors, and the chiropractor, finally I went back to him and said, just put me back the way I was before, when I was first messed up. But when I was at the doctor the last time, I was sitting there and I heard, you're grounded now. You're grounded. And since then, I have been grounded in my body. And it's been very interesting because now I feel so much more. Like I actually I feel happy. I feel sad. I feel angry. I feel disappointed. I feel bliss. I feel everything. And now I have to sometimes apply what I know. Whereas before I didn't have to apply. So it's kind of interesting. I wonder,
Yeah.
I wonder, but
Yeah.
I'm floating with it though, because I had to share something with you. I'll share my book with you after we get there. But it's just fascinating to me because it seems almost like a reverse kind of thing. But go ahead.
Well, it sounds to me like you quantum leaped into a different timeline. And that you came more by doing that, it did ground you more into a human experience than just, which is sometimes I'm like, but why? And it's like, because that's where you were needed,
And that's what I heard. I heard I this might really, I heard that I came into the kicking and screaming saying, I'm not gonna do it, I'm not gonna do that human thing, I'm not.
Same.
Came in kicking and screaming, but that's why I'm here. And so I have to ground so that I can do all that I've been called to do and receive all that I've been called to receive. Well, thank you for helping me to remember that. I hadn't thought about that in a long time.
That was one of my biggest things is sometimes and I had a light language healing happen, and in the light language I was communicating, and that's what I was upset about, was that I was human. And not that there's anything wrong with being human, but it was like, I don't get it and I don't want to be human. But I also know, because this isn't my home. Like it's my home for now, but it's not my home, and I want to go home. I'd rather go home. And so I have that same experience where it's like, no, I don't really want to do this human thing, but then being grounded into the vessel even more. And that's happened, especially here for me recently. I've been even more grounded into this vessel because that's how we're supposed to be used more efficiently,
Yes, me too. I'm trying to slow down, ground myself, listen to my heartbeat. Thank you so much, Danielle. How can my listeners find you? How can they get a Reiki session?
Email is always fine. I just came off of Facebook because I was starting to feel, I don't know, Facebook and I don't really get along. I feel all these different energetic like these different energies coming through these different channels, and it's very hard to manage. And so, we're not doing this. And then so I kind of have Instagram. I get on it, and that's where I get my news is Instagram.
Yeah.
Which is a running joke, but also very true. So I could give my email, which is fine. Yeah.
Well, do you want to cut this out completely and not give them anything if you don't want to give them anything? Or if you think by that time you might have another way that you want them to come in contact with you, we can put that in.
Yeah.
It's your world, my beautiful sister. It's your world.
I know. So my Instagram is Sacred Lights 37, SACRED LIGHTS 37. And my email is sacredlights37@gmail.com.
Okay.
So,
okay.
Because I'm always willing to, and I don't know what source, has, planned, but I'm definitely there's a reason I think that not a lot of people talk about the walk-ins, and that a lot of people are starting to remember themselves as walk-ins. And so I want to be open to wherever I can help, and whoever I can help in whatever capacity that looks like.
Yeah, that's nice. Now, are you ever, if do you think Crystal walked out? You think the accident had her walk out, or she was just, I had enough?
Both.
And I'm for this reason, because I'm wondering if Crystal can hop out and Elle can walk in, can someone else, like, is this Elle's space now? Did she make a home here? And it's like,
Yes.
protect yourself with the white light.
Yes. So this is Elle's space. And I think that was more of like a rescue mission. There's not a lot of information in different parallels or realms of what's actually going on here. I think that there's just a knowing that there's distress on this planet and in this reality. And so that's why a lot are being sent here. So I think a lot of us are tiring out, and I do believe that has a lot to do with the rise in suicides, or
It's a lot. It's a lot.
people. And that's the thing, is that people don't understand, and they can't deal with it, and they don't know how to deal with it, and so they exit the body. So I do feel like that was arranged in order for it to happen, but I also believe that it had a lot to do with crystals, like the energy behind Danielle, being so quieted that the ego is just running, on self so much that was the consequence and the outcome of all of these actions and behaviors that led into this certain situation. But with Danielle and this vessel being able to house a walk-in and these higher energies, the whole separation and walk-in was able to occur.
That's beautiful.
Yeah.
While you were talking, in my mind, I was seeing me and you and Betty, and we were holding hands and
yes, just holding hands and hugging everything in between.
Yes. Thank you, Danielle.
Yeah.
Thank you so much for coming on.
Yeah, if you have any questions or you want to talk again, just let me know. I'm so glad I could be here. Finally, time for us to be together.
Yes. The next time I can be out in the flowers like I was feeling. Maybe that's why when you were talking about trees, nature, because I'm very connected to them too. So maybe the next.
I have vines and flower tattoos all over my body. Yeah. Yeah, it's what keeps me grounded.
Is that why I was seeing flowers all over the place?
Maybe. Yeah.
Thank you. Thank you so much. You are awesome.
You are. I love you dearly.
I love you too. Have a wonderfully blessed day.
Yeah.
And thank you for coming on Heaven High with Tangie. Heaven High.